Hello, this is Jatin and I welcome you to the next video on the interviewninjas.com series, a Pythagoras Education Initiative. In this video, we'll look at a very popular format commonly used in the interviews, a star format, and you get to use it in your interviews and even on your resume. So, I plan to cover the following in this video. One is defining the star format, and then we'll look at how does it help, and at the end we'll look at the sample response to situational questions using the star format. So let us get started with the first one, the definition of star format. Well, a star format stands for situation. Describe the situation that you were a part of, what was going on, and there's an example at the end as well that will make it very clear for you to understand how to structure this. Then you have the task. What were some of the tasks that had to be accomplished? What was needed? I've often seen that many people confuse a task with an action. Well, there are two very different things. Task would mean something like, let's say we had to increase revenues. And action, on the other hand, would entail all the activities that you had to do in order to finish those tasks. At the end, you have the result. What was the outcome of the activity and what did you get to eventually? Do you know, most of the top B school interviews revolve around situational questions such as leadership, teamwork, ethical dilemma, failure, and many others. And in these questions, the school is not going to explore your skill sets through an open-ended question such as, can you face challenges? Rather, they're going to ask you a specific question that requires you to share an incident from your life. They'll ask you something like, hey, tell me about a time when you faced a challenging situation at work and how did you handle it? Now, let's look at the next section. How does it help? How does a star format help you create the right impression? Well, the very nature of the questions demands a story, and the star format helps you in giving the right structure to the story. First, let's look at an out-of-shape story without a star format, and then we will transform this same story into a star format to increase the effectiveness. And just as I write this one, I want you to pause the video, to write yours and work with me to transform your story as well. Trust me, it's magical and it works very well. So let us look at a story without a star format, the wrong story, and trust me, a lot of people do this and they do this a lot. So the story is, first, the question is, tell me about a time when you faced a challenging situation at work and how did you handle it? Well, the response is, I remember a time when I had increased our website traffic and market penetration in the online media and had a direct impact on our quarterly revenues. And even though the company had spent a lot of capital and time on building the online presence, we were not getting any significant returns and we did not understand the problem completely, and we were also planning to discontinue the sales of some of the product lines. After numerous discussions with various teams, customer feedback and the analysis, we were able to significantly turn around the situation, and this was a very challenging situation and I learned a lot. You can pause here, by the way, and write your own story if you want to work along with this. Now, let us look at the problems with this story. Well, first of all, it does not let us assess the size of the challenge. We do not know what was going on, the background. We do not know how the applicant accomplished the results. What was his role? It does not give us any idea of the results. The situation is simply using adjectives such as significant turnaround, but no one can measure it. Another problem with the story is we do not know what are the transferable skill sets the school will value. Without the transferable skill sets, the story will become irrelevant. Now, let us turn around the story into a star format and see what comes out. A sample response to a star situation. Look at the next section. I'm going to give you a sample star format story for the same situation. So first, situation is, well, I had just started leading the online marketing for ABC company, and before I joined the office, they had experimented enough without any substantial results. And Even after increasing the online budgets by 150% in the past 1 year, the company had not realized commensurate returns and were planning to discontinue the sales of some of the product lines. Task: I had 6 months to increase the marketing effectiveness and show a sizable impact on the ROI within the same budgets. Action: there are 2 sections within action: analysis and execution. Now, within analysis, I analyzed the existing marketing strategy and realized that the company was pumping excess capital across the channels without laying emphasis on the density of our target users across various platforms. There was no mechanism to understand the cost per unique user. How much were we paying to acquire new users? We had no idea. Exhausting the budgeted capital seemed like the goal of the marketing teams without any means to measure the relevant number of new customer acquisitions. Now, within execution, I created means to measure the effectiveness of each of those channels. I restructured the entire marketing spend by closing down all the inefficient channels and topped up the most effective ones. I worked with the customers to conduct surveys on the overall brand positioning and understand what factors were most important to them. And I also collaborated with the marketing teams to realign the overall message to increase the conversion rates as well. Results: my measures led to a decrease in the marketing spend. It also increased the relevant leads by 75%, and our conversion rates went up as now our marketing spends were targeted towards more relevant users with more effective branding messages. And to sum it up, this led to a collective increase in revenues from the online marketing by 45%, which was equivalent to $5.5 million. That's the end of the story. Now, look at this one. Let's look at the analysis of the story. In the new story, in the right story, the listener has enough background of what the problem in the organization was, the one that the applicant is working with, and the response lays a clear path of what was needed. It also lists down the actions that the applicant took, and the interviewer can in fact assess the analytical skill sets, team skill sets, and decision-making ability of the applicant. And the results are very clearly mentioned. Even though one cannot have numbers in all the situational questions, one should try to have them as much as possible. And I think all the situational questions such as teamwork, leadership, most significant accomplishment, ethical dilemma, and many more on the Interview Ninja's website are in a star format. Remember, the goal is to make it easy for the interviewer to understand you and value you. Express yourself well to get accepted. That's the entire goal. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you learned something amazing new today. Feel free to explore the other range of videos on the Interview Ninja's website. And if you're struggling with short-term, long-term goals, failure, why MBA, leadership questions, or any question related to MBA interviews or applications, find it on theinterviewninjas.com. Have an amazing day and best of luck for your interview.